So I remember we did some of these already. I'm going to go through, I know we did this x to the fourth minus 16, so I'm not going to do that one, but I'll do probably these other three, just to make sure you know how to do them and everything, and then we'll move to the other assignment. So this first one, x cubed minus 6x squared minus 2x plus 12. Break down what our p and q is. As I said, you had to use p over q. So break down p and q. Q is just 1. For your quiz, I'm probably only going to give you 1 for these problems as your exponent out in front, so that your p over q is simpler. So what multiplies to give us 12? That would be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. And those are all plus and minuses. And q is just plus and minus 1. So now we go ahead and plug in our first root from Desmos. And so whenever I graph this one, I find that I have zeros here, here, and it's 6. And so I start by plugging 6 in. And doing synthetic division with it. So 6 goes here, and then 1, negative 6, negative 2, 12. Bring down the 1. 6 times 1 is 6. That becomes 0. 6 times 0, 0. That's negative 2. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. That gives you 0 as your remainder. So you end up with x squared minus 2 equals 0. Since this was a 0 in the middle for the x, I don't even list it. Now I add the 2 over to the other side. I get x squared equals 2. Take the square root of both sides. I get x equals plus and minus 2. Square root of 2, that is. So my 3 roots here are 6 and plus minus root 2. Next one. Factor out my 15 and negative 1. Q over Q is just going to be 1 plus or minus 3 plus or minus 5 and plus or minus 15. Go back to Desmos and graph it. You have a root at negative 3 and 1 at 5. It's x to the 4th power, which tells us that there's going to be 4 roots. So I'm going to start by plugging in a 5. That's 1, negative 2, negative 14, negative 2, negative 15. I think I'm going to start with the 5. Bring down the 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Negative 14 plus 15 is 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. And that gives you 0. There's still 4 terms here, so I have to divide again. Divide by the negative 3 that we found. Bring down this 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Negative 3 times 0 is 0. 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Gives me a remainder of 0. I have a 0 in the middle term. So it's x squared plus 1 equals 0. Subtract the 1 over. X squared equals negative 1. Take the square root of both sides. That gives me x equals plus and minus I. My four roots are x equals 5, negative 3, and then plus and minus I. Next one, do factors of 27. This is just a 1, so we really just have to worry about that 27. Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 9, and plus or minus 27. Go to Desmos, find my roots. That's negative 3. Plug a negative 3 in to my synthetic division. 1, 3, 9, 27. Maybe space this 9 and 3 out a little bit so I don't think it's 39, but I'll be okay. Bring down the 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Negative 3 times 0 is 0. 9 plus 0 is 9. Negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. That's a 0. X squared plus 0x plus 9 equals 0. Subtract the 9 over x squared equals negative 9. Take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus 3i. Our three roots here are negative 3 and then plus and minus 3i. Okay. Next was write the simplest polynomial function with the given zeros. So we start by flipping our signs, x plus 1. And because this is a minus 1, it's got a multiplicity of 2, so that's really x plus 1 squared. Or you could write it out a normal way, x plus 1 times x plus 1 times 2, x minus 2, sorry. Now I multiply these first ones together, x times x, gives me x squared. Outer is 1x, inner is 1x. 1x plus 1x is 2x. And then 1 times 1 is 1. Distribute my x to each one of these terms. X to the third plus 2x squared plus x. Distribute my negative 2 to each of those terms. That's minus 2x squared minus 4x minus 2. This gives me x to the third minus 3x minus 2. And that's it. This one, x plus 4 times x plus 1 times x minus 2. Just multiply it out, x times x, that's x squared. Outer is x times 1, which is 1x. Inner is 4x. 1x plus 4x is 5x. 4 times 1 is 4. And you're multiplying that by x minus 2. It's a really difficult procedure. Distribute my x to each of these. X times x squared, that's x to the third. 5x times x is 5x squared. 4 times x is 4x. Then distribute the negative 2 to each. Negative 2 times x squared is minus 2x squared. Negative 2 times 5 is minus 10x. And negative 2 times 4 is minus 8. This is x to the third plus 3x squared minus 6x minus 8. Next group. Solve each equation by finding all roots. This is one we've done already. X to the fourth minus 16. You're welcome. So now here, we're going to do our P over Q. Again, Q is 1. I'm only worried about my top. Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 9. Graph it in Desmos. It gives us these 2 points, 1 and 3. I'm going to plug the 1 in for synthetic division. 1, 1, negative 7, 15, and negative 9. Bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. 1 times 9 is 9. Negative 9 plus 9 is 0. Now I have 1, negative 6, and 9. So this is x squared minus 6x plus 9. I can use the quadratic formula. Negative b, that's positive 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. b squared is negative 6 squared, that's 36, minus 4 times 1 times 9. 4 times 1 times 9 is 36. 36 minus 36 cancels out completely. I have 6 over 2a, which is 2. So that gives me 3 as my root. One times 1 is 1. Negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. 1 times 9 is 9. Negative 9 plus 9 is 0. So now this is x squared minus 6x plus 9. And you don't even have to write this part out, but 1 is my A, negative 6 is my B, and 9 is my C. So now we take this and put it in the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative of a negative 6 is a positive 6, plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared, that's 36, minus 4 times 1 times 9. That's all over 2 times 1. Four times 1 times 9 is 36. So this is just 36 minus 36 in the middle here. Since that's 36 minus 36, that just becomes a 0, and I have 6 over 2, which is 3. And so now I've really only come up with 2 roots, right? And we've always said that we have to have the same amount of roots as my exponents, right? So I should have 3 roots, but I only have 2 here. If I look back at my graph, remember that we have examples of multiplicity. And if it comes down and touches the x-axis and goes back up, then that means it's got a multiplicity of 2. So we only found 2 roots, but this has a multiplicity of 2 because it doesn't cross over the x-axis, which means that our 3 roots are actually, you can either list them out like this and say it's x equals 1, 3, and 3, or you could say 1 and 3 with the multiplicity of 2. Also, you should probably mult, not mutal, or whatever I put there, but multiplicity of 2. So it's just something to watch out for and make sure that you have the right amount of roots. And if you don't, then just look down and make sure, or look back at your graph and make sure that you don't have a multiplicity one. So when we look at this one here, there's only 1 out in front, so it's the same process. Find your factors of negative 8. So it's going to be 1 plus and minus, 2 plus and minus, 4, and 8. I can put this one into Desmos. And when I zoom out and look at the graph of this one, I can see there are multiple points where it touches. So you pick any one of those, that it's a whole number. I'm just going to go with 2, just to make it easy to start with. And now list your coefficients out. That's 1, 4, negative 3, negative 14, and negative 8. And I'm just trying 2 now. Bring down the 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Negative 3 plus 12 is 9. 2 times 9 is 18. Negative 14 plus 18 is 4. And 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0, so there's no remainder. I still have 4 terms here, though. So that means that I have to do it again. And I can choose one of those other roots There was either -1 or -4. I'll just go with -1. Bring down my 1. -1 times 1 is -1. 6 minus 1 is 5. -1 times 5 is -5. 9 minus 5 is 4. -1 times 4 is -4. This becomes a 0. Now I can use the quadratic formula on this. There's A, B, and C. Quadratic formula, -b, so that's a -5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, it's 25, minus 4 times 1 times 4. 4 times 1 times 4 is 16, all over 2a, that's 2 times 1. Now 25 minus 16 is 9. So it's -5 plus or minus the square root of 9 over 2. Square root of 9 is 3. So -5 plus 3 over 2. It gives me -2 over 2. That's a -1. And you do -5 minus 3 over 2. -5 minus 3 is -8. -8 over 2 is -4. So my roots are x equals -4, 2. Then this turned out to be -1, and so was that. So -1 multiplicity of 2. Or you could list -1, -1. As long as you list it twice, I'm okay with it. You can't just list it once, though, and leave off the multiplicity of 2, because then you're not coming up with your 4 roots. Now, out of these last 3 on the homework, they weren't horrible because 2 of those had the 2 minus I, so you just had to arrange it the way you're supposed to. So, x minus 2 minus I then you do x minus 2 plus I times x minus square root of 3 times x plus square root of 3 times x minus 2. Now, lucky for us, we just get to leave it in that form. For the third one, we had a 1 plus I, so we know that we can do that same thing. We're going to do, here we have an x, the -2i. So you do x minus 2i, x plus 2i, and then for 1 plus I, do x minus 1 plus I, and then x minus 1 minus I. So that's the third. Our middle one would have been the only one that we had to multiply out. And on your quiz on Monday, I'm not even going to give you one that's this bad. but it would be x minus 2 root 2 times x plus 2 root 2, x minus root 5 times x plus root 5 times x plus 3. Now the trick to these is to make sure that you're multiplying the pairs together first. Whenever you do that, this first one, if I do x times x, that gives me x squared. If I do 2 root 2 times x, it gives me just that. If I look at the inside, it's going to be minus that same thing, so they're going to cancel each other out. And so if I'm doing these, I really only focus on the front, x times x, and then the backs. Now, it's negative 2 times 2, that's negative 4. And then you multiply what's under the roots, this 2 times this 2, and that's the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is just 2, so this is x squared minus 8. I did this 4 times the 2 that I would get there. This pair, I can do the same thing with. X times x gives me x squared. If I did the outer, that would be positive root 5x. Inner would be negative root 5x. Those would cancel each other out. Then you just do the last. Root 5 times negative root 5. It's going to give you negative root 25. And the square root of 25 is just 5. And then that's times x plus 3. So now we multiply it the rest of the way out. Distribute this x squared to this and this. Gives me x to the 4th minus 5x squared. Then I distribute my negative 8 to both of those. So this is negative 5x squared minus 8x squared. So that would be minus 13x squared. And negative 8 times negative 5 is positive 40. Now we distribute our x plus 3 to each term. X times x to the 4th is x to the 5th. X times negative 13x squared is negative 13x to the 3rd. X times 40 is 40x. Then I multiply the 3 by x to the 4th, so plus 3x to the 4th, and minus 39x squared. And then plus 120. Now you'll notice that we don't have any of the same exponents there. So it's just going to be x to the 5th plus 3x to the 4th minus 13x to the 3rd minus 39x squared plus 40x plus 120.